let the whistle be the bell. We gon' get out what we got mad at. Many have tried, but many have failed. The 49ers got the livest fans in the NFL. I tried to tell them we back and we never left and we got heart. Levi Stadium starting to feel like Candlestick Park. Gold-blooded, my neck is frozen with diamonds. Front reported, be on the field with the lineman, big time fixture. Niner faithful, old school like an Impala. Ask Merton Hanks and the homie Ricky Ward. Take a picture. Them was my neighbors in 96. R.I.P. Dwight Clark, the catch. I'm a Niner forever like Rice and Locke. Forget T.O. Niner Empire into the world. Who are we? Bang, bang, Niner gang. Niner gang. Bang, bang, Niner gang. Bang, bang, Niner gang. Niner gang. Bang, bang, Niner gang. Niner gang. Who are we? Niner gang. Niner gang. Niner gang. Who are we? Niner gang. Niner gang. Niner gang. Who are we?
What's good, podcast world? What's good, YouTube? Back for another episode of Charge It to the Game Sports and Sports Betting Podcast, brought to you by the BetUS Sports app, Simply 8 Vitamin Gummies, man. The whole crew is here, and obviously, as you can see, man, we're joined by a very special guest, man. It's an honor, again, Mr. Matt Maiocco. Matt, brother, how you feeling, man?
I'm doing good. How are you guys doing?
Pretty good, man. Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year.
Yeah, man. Everybody, we're going to jump right into it. We don't have Matt for very long. We're obviously recording on the night of the national championship game, and Matt has actually blessed us with his presence. And obviously, as we know, he's a 49ers team reporter, and my pick to come out of the NFC, even as a Bucs fan. Matt, man, I just want to talk to you. Let's start it off as far as the 49ers season, man. Like, their season, they had some ups and downs, obviously. But from your opinion, being around this team, what can you tell us about it?
I mean, it's been a crazy season when you think about, the 49ers went to the NFC Championship game last year, and then 2 days after that game, Jimmy Garoppolo says goodbye to everybody. He's not expecting to be back because the 49ers were going to be trading him. Mm-hmm. And at that point, he finished the season injured last year with a thumb injury, with a shoulder injury, and the 49ers felt like they'd be able to trade him, as they made the transition fully to Trey Lance. And then a week before the trading window opened, Garoppolo, decides to have the surgery that's going to lay him up for 4 months. And so that pretty much eliminated all trade scenarios. He was kind of twisting in the wind, not knowing what he was going to do. The 49ers didn't know what they were going to do. They weren't going to pay him the full salary to come back. So were they going to cut him? They weren't going to be able to trade him. All that stuff was going on. Trey Lance had a pretty decent training camp, and the 49ers seemed to be pretty happy with the way he was going. And then a week before the start of the season, they decide that the sides get together. Jimmy Garoppolo takes a pretty significant pay cut, and he comes back to the team, he never left, so I guess he just remained with the team as the backup quarterback. All that time, the 49ers were behind the scenes really falling for the number 3 quarterback, Brock Purdy, who they selected with the final pick in the draft. We didn't see a whole lot of him in training camp, but what we did see, he looked the part. He looked good. Not a big arm, doesn't do anything, just eye popping, but just really solid. Mm-hmm. And so I all the way through, I figured, well, if we're going to keep 3 quarterbacks, or at that point, I always thought they were going to keep 2 before Garoppolo came back. I thought it was going to be Nate Sudfeld as the backup. So they gave him a solid contract to be the backup. And then when it came time, it became pretty obvious that Purdy was impressing some people, and the 49ers decided to keep the 3 quarterbacks, and Nate Sudfeld, they kicked him to the curb. And so I think that was probably the first indication of how much the 49ers really, really liked Brock Purdy, is that they've always kept 2 quarterbacks on their 53-man roster. I didn't think that there would be much of an issue getting him from the 90-man roster, cutting him, and then bringing him back to the practice squad. But the 49ers did not want to take that chance. And, boy, that proved to be a season-saving move for them. because every time they've gone from one quarterback to the next, it just seems like the play has gotten better. From Trey Lance, not knowing exactly what you're getting with him, to Jimmy Garoppolo, a guy with a lot of experience. And then Garoppolo gets injured, and before we even realize the significance of it and the fact that he was going to be out for certainly the rest of the regular season, probably the postseason as well, by the time we knew that, Brock Purdy was already in the game and playing well. And so, the 49ers offense looks good. This looks really good with Brock Purdy, and it should be getting even better with Elijah Mitchell coming back and Deebo Samuel coming back, to already have those guys with George Kittle and Christian McCaffrey and Brandon Ayuk. So it's a long answer to your very short question, but feeling pretty good about how they're going into the postseason.
Nah, for sure, man. And that was actually my quick question. I had a quick question before. I know Z had something following up. But I was going to ask, I know that Jimmy G's been out a little while now. I was kind of anticipating, I know Brock's been playing well. I don't obviously, understand how hurt Jimmy is, or if he even comes back this postseason. But if he is ready to play, do you think, in your opinion, that the 49ers would pull a flowing Brock Purdy and plug Jimmy G in there based off his performance in the past? Or do you think they would kind of just ride the wave with Brock since he's kind of been playing so well?
I don't see any scenario where they take Brock Purdy out.
Wow.
And if Jimmy Garoppolo comes back, and the thinking is that maybe if they make it to the NFC Championship game, maybe he could play. Mm-hmm. But at this stage, with what Brock Purdy has done and the experience he's gaining and the level of play of this offense, and remember now, if Jimmy Garoppolo does get cleared and he's able to play, say in the NFC Championship game, that means the 49ers will have also won 2 playoff games with Brock Purdy. And so that project that far out. And also, let's face it, Jimmy Garoppolo has no future with the team. Yeah. And basically, because of the way Brock Purdy has played, there's no reason for Jimmy Garoppolo. There's no reason for the 49ers to have any inclination to bring him back, because there should be a starting job for him somewhere in the NFL.
Yeah.
And there's not, well, perhaps, right? But, I could name a few others. The Las Vegas Raiders with Josh.
I was just about to say that. Yep.
The Jets with Robert Saleh. The Washington Commanders were one of the teams that were interested in him last year, and they pulled the plug on that and went with Carson Wentz, and that didn't turn out very well either. So there's going to be opportunities for him to be a starter somewhere, but I don't see it with the 49ers at any point. I think if Garoppolo is able to come back, what he basically is going to be doing, he won't be taking Brock Purdy's job. He'd be taking Josh Johnson's job. Josh is the backup quarterback right now. So that would be the scenario to look for.
Gotcha, man. Thanks for that answer. Big Z, I'll let you go, man.
What's the update on Deebo for the playoffs?
So Deebo played about 45 snaps yesterday against the Arizona Cardinals. And he had 3 passes thrown his way, caught 2 passes for 20 yards, also did some good things as a blocker. In fact, he had a block for Elijah Mitchell that enabled him to have a 37-yard run. So the idea was to get him, just kind of knock the rust off, and to get him back in football shape a little bit. So 45 snaps, that was quite a bit. I think there's a little bit more than I probably anticipated him having. But Deebo Samuel and Elijah Mitchell came back. Mitchell only played 10 snaps in the game, but he had 5 carries for 55 yards and 2 touchdowns. Sheesh. So he made good use of his time. But what the 49ers have done, through this 6-game stretch with Brock Purdy as the quarterback is, Deebo Samuel hasn't been out there for much of it. Elijah Mitchell had not been out there for any of it. And so it's a really good problem, I think, for Kyle Shanahan and that offensive staff to have, and heck, even for Brock Purdy to have. You have an offense that's rolling, an offense that's scoring 33.5 games over Purdy's 6 games. And now you bring in Deebo Samuel and Elijah Mitchell with those other guys they already have. So that's part of the reason for optimism, is that in addition to the 10-game winning streak and how they've, won the NFC West several weeks ago and kind of kept the foot on the accelerator to a degree. They believe that their best football is ahead of them with all the pieces that are getting healthy and coming back together.
Yeah, for sure, man. I had one quick question before I let Jay chime in, man. I know, and it just seems like, I actually forgotten you guys brought in Christian McCaffrey. I mean, that's a huge piece. You guys have so many weapons, Ayuk, and Deebo Samuel, and Mitchell, Kittle, obviously, and then you guys bring in the shiny new toy at the trade deadline, and McCaffrey. Obviously, we've seen how he's kind of, allowed this offense to make some big plays down the field. How has he kind of adjusted to coming into the organization?
He's been a phenomenal player. He arrived 2 days before that game against the Chiefs, and I forget what week that was, like week 7. And he played about 20 snaps. And the guy that when he was given the playbook or the game plan and said, "Okay, learn this," the guy that he went to was Brock Purdy. And so they spent a lot of time together just going over things. And McCaffrey was very impressed with how well Brock Purdy knew that offense. And this is a rookie, right?
Yeah.
So it actually helped both guys out because, there's no better way to learn something than by really sinking your, getting absorbed into it and also teaching it. So I think that time helped Purdy as much as it helped Christian McCaffrey. But that next game, 2 days later, McCaffrey played 2 snaps, and the 49ers offense did not do much. They lost that game, got crushed by the Chiefs. And then that was it. The next week, Christian McCaffrey was in the starting lineup, and 10 games later, they still haven't lost. So he's been this he's been kind of the missing piece of this offense when you think about what they asked of Deebo Samuel last year was to be a wide receiver who could also play running back. In a lot of ways, McCaffrey's the same but the opposite, right? He's a running back, and I've been impressed with him not only being able to get to the outside, but also putting his shoulder down and getting tough yards between the tackles.
Yeah.
He's also such an adept route runner and understands all the things they're trying to do. So between Christian McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel, man, the 49ers have two of the more versatile offensive pieces in the NFL. And they're on one team, and it really enables Kyle Shanahan to kind of circle matchups of guys on the opposing offense that he can dictate, coverages and exploit in those coverages. So McCaffrey has been really a season changer because after that game against the Chiefs, the 49ers were 3-4 and kind of in danger of going 3-5 because at that point the Rams were still, the Rams. Yeah. And they go to LA that next game, and McCaffrey not only runs for a touchdown and catches a touchdown pass, he also threw a touchdown pass. So he did it all. And since then, the 49ers have been, the hottest team in the NFL, I suppose.
Yeah. No, very much.
So that.
Yeah, man. Jay, I'll let you go, man.
Oh, so now that you're all getting all your weapons back, I think this is the kind of question I've been talking to my friends about as we prepare for the podcast. What team do you all see you all matching up against pretty well, as in will probably give you a little bit more trouble? Not saying that looking forward to the next team y'all playing, but just, hypothetically, going to the Super Bowl, who you think will give you, I guess, issues between that span from point A to point B?
Well, at this time of the year, every team, presents their issues. And, heck, the 49ers, went to overtime to beat the Raiders 2 weeks ago. And I realized that, there was stuff, the 49ers didn't play a great game. The Raiders had Jarrett Stidham at quarterback, and he played really well. He exposed some things in the 49ers defense and really got them to go back to work and try to figure some things out. But as I see it, and boy, Rome, you're not going to like me for this one. I don't know how. I think the Cowboys are going to beat the Bucs. I think that the Vikings will beat the Giants. Mm-hmm. I think the 49ers will beat Seattle. So what does that mean? That means Cowboys at the Eagles, and that's probably one.
Yeah.
I don't think the Eagles want to play that game. And
Nah.
so
Okay, all right.
I actually think, and maybe I'm really off the mark on this. I know the Cowboys have been kind of historical underachievers in the postseason, but there's still something scary, I think, about that team with Micah Parsons, with Dak Prescott having kind of a puncher's chance. A guy who's kind of all over the map, but man, when he's on, he is on. CeeDee Lamb, the running game they have. So, to me, short of, the obvious would be the 49ers having to go on the road to beat the Eagles. But it doesn't, for me, take too much of a stretch of the imagination to see the Cowboys coming to Levi Stadium for the NFC Championship game, and that being a really good game.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
all right. Wasn't expecting that one.
Think about the crazy ride, losing to Chicago to start the season.
Not only losing to Chicago, but then 2 weeks later losing to the Denver
Broncos.
Yeah. Oh my God, in that ugly game.
Yeah, probably the two. I'm just trying to think off the top of my head. I guess probably the two of the worst teams they played this season were two teams that beat them. So there, and one was with Trey Lance and a monsoon in Chicago. I don't know if you remember that week one.
Yeah.
It was coming down in buckets, so neither offense could really do much of anything. And then that Sunday night game was just ugly with Jimmy Garoppolo running out the back of the end zone and playing so poorly.
11-10.
Man, that was crazy.
Yeah.
Man, I think we know these games like the back of our hand. Because, sports betting, I remember those games vividly because, I circle teams each and every week. I'm willing to bet, money on and stuff. I'm not going to get into major details about it, but let's just say I lost a few $1,000 the first 2 weeks of the year. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
that hurts you. That you, doesn't it?
But you learn. Yeah, if you look at it as everything you learn, you don't lose. You learn, and don't do it again.
Right, exactly. I want it back.
Your bank account might have a different opinion.
Very much so, man. But moving on, man. Like I said, what you said. It really doesn't offend me. As far as being like a Bucs fan, I'm just kind of happy to be here, man. Our team is just playing completely, just out of sorts. Our offense just can't seem to get right. As much as I'm a fan of the Bucs, I'm still a realist. I'll honestly be surprised if we do beat the Cowboys. Just with
Rum. Let me ask you this. I don't know this off the top of my head. The only other time I can remember an under 500 team in the playoffs was Seattle that 1 year.
Yeah,
and
7-9.
And the Saints went. This is the second time.
Saints went up there and lost. Seattle won the game.
And the Seahawks beat the Saints.
Yeah.
And so there is something about playing at home. Even though under 500, that's that's not exactly where Tom Brady is used to being, but he is used to being in the postseason.
And he's never lost to Dallas in his career.
Never.
Yeah.
So either look at it that way, that's continuing, or it's due for
Sometimes all good things must come to an end. I'm hoping and praying, obviously, that it doesn't come to an end on Monday night.
It's a long shot. I think it's like 8-0 against Dallas, Brady.
And okay, so you guys would know the answer to this. I haven't checked it out, but what's the point spread?
Minus 3.5 for Dallas.
Oh yeah, that's pretty low. That's a pick 'em.
Cowboys 3.
On the road.
Yeah, that sounds about right to me.
Yeah.
Our biggest thing, I don't want to spin this, turn it into a Bucs thing, but our biggest thing is obviously the offensive line, man. I give anything.
Isn't that the biggest thing with almost every team in the league?
Yeah, but when you got a Tom Brady, I'm like, he can't move at all. Like our center, he's missed, Ryan Jensen, who's arguably the second best player on our team, on our offense outside of Tom. Just having that piece gone. And then Marpet retiring at our right guard. We're just young, man, and he's been struggling all year to kind of block it up. And we really go with these 3 and 4 wide receiver sets, and consistently, and we just don't have time to throw the ball. But back to the 49ers, man. I want to talk to you a little bit about Bosa, man. he's, the sack champion this year. I think he led the league in sacks this year, 18 sacks. I
18 and a half. Don't shortchange.
Yeah, my bad.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
18 and a half.
He'll be popping on here and setting you straight.
Yeah,
I bet he will, man.
Defensive player of the year, more than likely this year.
I would think so.
Yeah.
I would think so. Micah Parsons gets a lot of love, but Nick Bosa was the best defensive player on the league's best defense. And yes, the 18 and a half sacks, but also he does a really good job of setting the edge. 49ers run defense was the best in the league. So I think I would be really surprised if Bosa is not the NFL defensive player of the year.
Yeah, I think so too, man. I'm just looking like every time I watch this dude, man, he's like the prototype defensive end. Obviously, his 40 time and stuff like that doesn't really scare you. He just looks like every single snap, he can just pick anybody up and just sit him in the quarterback. Like, how strong is this? Like, he looks like he's just incredibly strong. Like, what numbers is he throwing up in the weight room?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if he does stuff for everything he does as far as training is to be a better football player. Yeah. So it's not necessary. It's all. He's engineered to play football. There's no other way to describe it. From an early age, it was all football all the time. You should see this guy's quads. They are. Yeah. He is a massive. You stand next to him and you don't think he's not that big, but man, you see him before games. He comes out wearing this cut off shirt, and then he's wearing the shorts, and his quads are massive. But I'd say probably his best quality. Yes, he's got power. He's got agility, quickness, anticipation, but he also is like just a next level technician too. So he's really everything that you'd want in constructing a defensive lineman. His brother's a little bit different. Just kind of he looks different as far as he's more angular and taller, I think, than Nick. But Nick is has this low center of gravity. He's rarely on the ground. Yeah. He's got great balance. He can bend the edge. And like I said, he can convert quickness to power and vice versa. So he's been healthy, which is a big deal. Last year what did he have last year? 15 and a half sacks, I think it was, and just played some really good football. And this year he's even better.
Yeah, I hear these guys a lot about when they talk on the telecast during the games about his diet or something like that, about how he's changed his diet. Do you even know anything about that, like about what he eats or something?
Oh well, I know he has a chef that's that comes in and makes meals for him, and the off season is very regimented. This was really the first off season that he's had since he's been in the NFL. And maybe even since before Ohio State, he was always injured, so he was always kind of, that first year he coming in, he was rehabbing the core muscle surgery that he had that ended his Ohio State career. The next year would have been, I think, COVID year. So he didn't have like a full off season then. The next year he tears his ACL 2 or 3 games in. So that next off season was all about just getting right, getting healthy. And that was last year. So he made it through last year healthy. And then this off season of 2022 was all about honing the skills, getting the body right, doing all the things to get him ready for the regular season, and all that work paid off. Now he's got an incredible work ethic, and like I said, he's all about football. And then this off season will be all about getting paid, because he will become this off season. He'll become the highest paid defensive player in the NFL.
Yep, and rightfully, as he should be, rightfully so, an edge guy. Before we get on to the obvious, the game, the wild card weekend, I gotta ask you about, and this is just me personally, who is number 50? I think with 51, and then the safety was it Ufanga. Well, 51's just, I think it's 51. He just strikes the hell out of people, and then safety.
Are you thinking about Dre Greenlaw?
Greenlaw, yeah.
Is it Greenlaw?
Greenlaw's 57. And Azeez Al-Shire is 51. But
Al-Shire, 51.
Al-Shire, 51.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, so Greenlaw was playing. 49ers were kind of upset that Dre Greenlaw didn't make the Pro Bowl, and he didn't even make, third, fourth, fifth alternate. And so he had a back injury, a sprain of his back against the Raiders, and he should be ready for this game. But that's the thing is, like, whenever Greenlaw goes off the field, Al-Shire comes in, and the 49ers don't lose a whole lot. So he's a guy that, they're not going to be able to keep. I think Azeez Al-Shire, as much as the 49ers want to keep him, they made a decision in the offseason, or actually after the first game, to sign Dre Greenlaw to a contract extension. So I would suspect that Azeez Al-Shire, as an unrestricted free agent this year, will get a very nice payday. Yes. And he will be a starter for somebody, and he will cash in. The other guy you mentioned is Talanoa Hufanga, number 29.
Yeah, that's his name.
He was Pac-12 Defensive Player of the Year, was a lower round draft pick, 5th or 6th round draft pick, and came in, played a lot of special teams. And then they decided at the end of last season, okay, his time now is to be a starter. He got off to a really hot start, made some big plays on that Monday night game against the Rams, and kind of put his name out there as, a Pro Bowl guy. And he did make the Pro Bowl. So he's a guy that he has contact courage. He'll hit you, but he's also a little bit susceptible to some coverage breakdowns. Yeah. So how he plays in the postseason will be a huge part of, how far the 49ers go from here.
Right. Gotcha, man.
So the talk is Coach Ryans, DeMeco Ryans, interviewing at Houston. How does that work? Is that a distraction, or what's going on?
Yeah, Big Z, as I understand it, he can't interview this week. That would be next week.
Okay.
I think on a day off, and it wouldn't be in person, I don't think. But it's the Texans, it's the Broncos. I know those two teams for sure have asked for permission to talk to him. Last year he got a few interviews as well. In fact, the Minnesota Vikings wanted to bring him in for a second interview, and he declined because he felt like he had more to learn. So he came back, and I think it was a good move from the sense that he's only going to, he only increased his stock as a coach this year, running that 49ers defense. And he's a guy with tremendous presence. He's still a young guy. I'm kind of curious to see what kind of offensive staff he would put together, wherever he ends up. But I mean, right now I forget, is it 5? It's 5 teams right now with openings.
Okay.
And I would think that almost and there might be a few more, right? Then there might be a couple more firings, but I would think that any team with an opening, DeMeco Ryans is on that list of interviewing him and kind of seeing what he's all about. And knowing him like I do, I would think that if he gets in the door, teams are going to really like him. And, there are going to be a lot of good candidates out there, but I would be absolutely flabbergasted if DeMeco Ryans doesn't become a head coach this offseason, unless he just doesn't want to be, unless he feels like there's no situation that really fits him, that he's excited about. That would be the only way, is if he just feels like I have plenty of time, there's no reason to rush in anything. I'm going to pick my spots. But otherwise, man, I think that, put it this way, if I were an owner, he would be at the top of my list.
Very much so, man. I love how he's kind of made the transition from, because he was a long tenured Mike line. He played, he was a linebacker at a high level for some years.
That's why I say Houston, because he played at Houston for so long.
He played.
That's what I was thinking too. Yeah,
he made Pro Bowls. I think he was defensive player, defensive rookie of the year. So he played at Houston. Then he finished his career in Philadelphia, took 1 year off after his career was over as a player, and decided to get into coaching, and came to the 49ers in 2017 as a entry-level quality control coach. And he's just risen up the ladder. And when Robert Saleh took the job with the Jets, DeMeco Ryans slid right in and became the 49ers defensive coordinator. And, going back to Nick Bosa said last week that DeMeco Ryans is by far the best defensive coordinator he's been around, and one of the absolute best coaches he's ever been around.
Oh, that's high praise.
And very high praise.
Yeah, man.
And you know what? And the one thing, it wasn't so much the X's and O's. He goes, he has all that stuff down too, but it's just the way he interacts with people. He gets to know people, how he understands how hard to push people, also when to back off, when to get in somebody's face, when to give them a pat on the back. He said he just has a really good touch about pushing hard, but not pushing too hard.
Man, and then those are all the signs of a great head coach, man. So I'm praying and hoping that he gets the job. Really quick before we get you out of here, man, just the kind of last question, obviously, and probably the most important one, man. What can we expect, the 49ers game plan to be here? Obviously, you guys are going to be at home. You're playing the division opponent and the Seattle Seahawks. What can we really expect to happen in this game, in your opinion?
Well, I think offensively, this is about as ideal of a situation for Kyle Shanahan as they could have, because they have a team that can run the ball very effectively with Mitchell and with Christian McCaffrey. Mm-hmm. You have a team that can throw the ball around the field. They haven't put up the huge passing numbers with Brock Purdy. He doesn't have a 300-yard passing game yet, but look at the weapons they have offensively in the passing game. So it really becomes a thing where he can take his team into every game and figure out where the vulnerabilities of the opposing defense lie. And so, his plan, I'm sure, will be going into each of these games, 50-50 split, run and pass. But if something comes up during the game or they're having success in a certain area, they're going to pounce on it. So it's really a situation, they're not going to look into, we need to get Deebo Samuel this many touches, George Kittle this many, Christian McCaffrey. It's really just kind of keeping everything open, everything on the table, and kind of letting the game dictate it. So it's a really good situation for them. I think, honestly, the only thing that can really hurt them is if they have some giveaways and not the takeaways. If they lose the battle of turnovers, something kind of dramatic, that would be something that it's almost impossible to predict. But they're, like you said, they're very confident going into the postseason, but I don't get the sense that they're overconfident. They know how good they are, but they also know that any team that they face, even a team that maybe on paper doesn't look all that great, like the Seattle Seahawks, they know that all it takes is one bad day, and you're bags and you're making reservations to spend some time on a beach somewhere.
Yep. Yeah, for sure, man. And I actually kind of brought up a good point. Actually, this one question before we'll probably get you out of here. I think I was talking to one gentleman within the organization, and he said one of the things that one of the flaws, the red flags he looks in the 49ers offense is he thinks that they're susceptible to man blitzes. So sending a lot of pressure at them and allowing, one-on-one matchups outside, or maybe doubling Deebo and sending everybody else. Do you think, that's a recipe for success against them?
You know what? Honestly, I don't, because I think Brock Purdy is very quick in figuring stuff out. Mm-hmm. And if you're going to double Deebo, that means somebody else is single coveraged. And so I think that, what the Dolphins did, as soon as Jimmy Garoppolo was injured and Brock Purdy went into that game, they came with zero blitzes.
Yep.
They were in Brock Purdy's face every snap. And what did Brock Purdy do? He made them pay.
He did.
He knows where his spots are. He can get rid of the ball quickly. I don't know if you've seen him, but he's like he played middle infield in high school, so he has all the arm angles and all this, so he can throw around defensive ends. I think that there are times where teams will have to do that just to keep him honest. But I do think that a steady diet of blitzes almost kind of makes it easier for him, because he does have a quick release. And if he knows pre-snap, here comes the blitz, this is where I'm going, I think he will pick teams apart, because the one common denominator of all those guys he's throwing passes to, once they get the ball in their hands, they are difficult to bring down. So Deebo Samuel, yards after the catch. Brandon Ayuk, yards after the catch. George Kittle, yards after the catch. And I don't even need to tell you about Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So I do think that the team thinks we're just going to blitz the 49ers crazy and take advantage of Brock Purdy. I think that team might be in for a very rude awakening.
Man, hey, you heard it here first, man. But
Yep.
Matt Maiocco, everybody. Matt, once again, thanks a lot for coming on, man. We greatly appreciate it. And anybody that listens, man, you can follow Matt on his Instagram page, man. Matt Maiocco. Check out his podcast, 49ers Talk, man. Matt, man, anybody you want to shout out before hopping off of here, or?
Yeah, no, I mean, I love your guys' podcast, but if you want just 49ers all the time, check out the 49ers Talk podcast. It's available anywhere you get your podcast. It's also on YouTube. So I know I've been on with you, I think the second time.
Yep.
I've been waiting for you guys to ask me back. I thought I might have said something last
No, not at all.
but it's good to be back. So Rome, thank you for reaching out, and Jay and Big Z, thanks so much, guys, and enjoy the postseason.
Thank you. You as well.
Oh yeah. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, man.
All right,
Thanks
take care,
a lot,
guys.
brother. All right, man.
All right, have
See
a
you,
good
man.
one.
All right, fellas. Hey, Matt Maiocco, man.
Yeah.
Fellas, what do we think, man?
They may be the favorites to me to win it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
that offense,
Yeah.
they can run the ball,
Yeah.
run the ball. Seattle's defense struggles.
Yeah.
We're done.
I think this game is going to be ugly. I think
Yeah,
it's going to be ugly.
They beat the shit out of him. I was trying to be professional. We was on, but yeah, they're gonna beat the dog shit. And he wasn't
Yeah, I
even
think they're gonna
offended me.
dog walk.
I know he's trying to be nice. I mean, he's not offended me saying I think. Obviously, as a Bucs fan, I know what our issues are.
Mhm.
I honestly, I really want us to win. Bucs fans are gonna be in town for the game, so show your boys some love, man. Old ass people in the fucking stands. Don't you tell my big ass to sit down. I was there last time, y'all. They were sitting there. I was standing up for the game, playoff game. They said, "Hey, yo, sit your big ass down." I'm like, hell no. But like I said, Matt Maiocco, man, make sure you tune into his podcast, 49ers Talk. Give him a follow on IG, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, we'll chop it up really, really quick before we hop off, fellas. And for the people that don't know, man, Brad Johnson is going to be joining us tomorrow. He's going to be joining us tomorrow. We're going to be talking about some, the Bucs game, the Bucs versus Cowboys. We're going to talk about that a little bit. A few other of the other matchups, man. So, but with that said, man, just quickly on the 49ers, man, do we think, like I said, they're my Super Bowl pick. I mean, as a Bucs fan, I put a bet in earlier during the season, and I ain't gonna lie to you, I hope it lands, man.
It's gonna be close. Them and Philly. I mean, the Niners add a cold Philly for the NFC Championship.
Yeah.
That's gonna be the game. I mean, everything to me. But Matt did say if the Cowboys do come through, it's a rivalry game. Cowboys could knock out Philly, but I just think that matchup, Philly, San Francisco, is gonna be a fight.
Yeah, I think so too. Because I mean, to me, it's like the only thing you can really point at was the Niners offense. The defense been striking all season. Yeah. So the fact that Purdy can come in there, do what he do, and I know that, like Matt said, Purdy knows the playbook pretty well. Seems like he's progressing pretty well, and now he got the weapons to do that. And then the Shanahan offense just allows you to go crazy in general, and that's their strong suit. So as much as I'm not like, as much as I think they can make it, but I've been here before with the 49ers.
In Philly, weather's going to be a factor too.
It is.
So that is going to be a fun. If it ends up Niners Eagles in Philly, that's going to be a fun.
That's going to be that is going to be a bloodbath. There's going to be so much bloodshed. Those are two physical football teams.
Yeah.
Offensive line, defensive line across
and
the board.
Explosive too.
Yeah. They're going to be getting after it 100%, including the fans. We know about you Philly fans too. We know y'all get busy.
Hey, we already know that. But like I said, we're gonna hop back on tomorrow. We're not gonna really spend long on it, man. Like I said, make sure you guys tune in tomorrow as we have quarterback of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers of our very first Super Bowl, Brad Johnson. Man, he's coming on. We're gonna talk some Bucs football and everything like that. But Big Z, I know you probably want to talk about your Steelers real quick before we hopped off. It was going crazy. They couldn't hold it. They couldn't hold it down for you, brother. They couldn't get the win for you.
Look, and then the worst thing was on that last drive, they had the horse collar call on the Jets. It wasn't even a horse collar. I don't know what the ref was looking at. The dude grabbed his shirt. He didn't go inside the horse collar.
He been watching the podcast. He been watching the podcast. He's like, we sick of this shit.
I mean, if y'all would have seen me, I'm sitting there stressing out over a 3-3 Jets-Dolphins game with Skylar Thompson versus Joe Flacco.
That's a snooze fest.
Pillow fight of a game.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, our playoff dreams comes down to this. Skylar Thompson and Joe Flacco. I mean, it was brutal. I don't know how Jets fans do it. I mean, they get.
He said, I don't know how they do it.
Oh my
But I mean, they weren't doing it all season. I mean, they had bad quarterback play all season. Their defense is legit.
So fourth quarter, 3-3, they had the ball at the 40. I'm thinking, okay, just one more first down, kick the field goal, we win this game. They get a sack, an intentional grounding, and then another sack, and they're back at the 50. I'm like, 3 plays later, you went from like the 30 to the 50. I'm like, Joe Flacco, you're supposed to be a vet. I mean, the torture for me.
He must have heard. He must have heard. Like, if I win, the Steelers go. Like, fuck them, dude.
That's what I told you. I heard. He heard it. He heard it.
Oh yeah.
He might have said some shit like that.
And then the worst thing, the field goal. So they kick a 50-yard field goal, and then if you bet that game, if you took Jets plus 4.5, with their last second keep pitching it back play. And then they gave up a safety. They covered the spread for the Dolphins. You lost your bet on the 50 pitches behind, and then the last pitch went in the end zone for a safety. All Jets fans lose the Jets plus 4, 11-6 final.
I got to say this one thing, and then I'll ask you guys really quick if you guys had any bets for tonight or something like that. And then we'll talk quickly about the national championship game. But Nathan Peterman, ladies and gentlemen, bro, the bet that never, bro, this bet never goes fucking wrong. And I know y'all think I'm just talking. Bro, I literally love this motherfucking dude. I'm like, I'm telling you, I'm not even playing. I'm done sharing like what I win now because I don't want people pocket watching me. But brother, I'm not playing, man. I won thousands of dollars on
that. The interception he threw was like a lollipop 40-yard pass.
Absolutely.
With no receiver in the area, just basically threw it like a fly ball to the safety. I'm like, this dude.
How is this guy in the NFL still? Like, how? I want him to stay there and play every once in a while.
Without John Gruden. For years, wherever John Gruden went, he took Nathan Peterman with him. Man. And then now John Gruden's gone, but he got Chicago to take him. So there must be somebody who used to be on Gruden's staff.
It had to be somewhere
on the Chicago staff who loves Peterman.
That boy,
I'm telling
you, I appreciate it.
And then they really wanted to tank because they got the number 1 pick thanks to Lovey.
Yeah, they did.
That's why the Bears, y'all ain't slick. They're like, oh, that's why they kept him. Like, you might really suck this year. You know what? Let's start Peterman. So if it comes down to the last 2 games, we'll just throw him in there.
Yeah,
and let him think he has hope. Let him actually think he can play a little bit.
I was saying they fired Lovey because of that thing.
He literally. Lovey knew he was getting fired before the game. That's why you got to fire somebody and don't let him coach no more games. Because they fired him basically before the game. He went in there. They got the touchdown. He is going for 2. He went for it on 4th and 12.
Who?
Lovey trying to win it.
Yeah, he tried to win. He was not playing.
Hey,
you ain't watching that game? Nah, for real. They were going for it. They were going for it.
Come on, man. Why you gonna blow up the black head coach, man? Come on, man.
Honestly, the way Lovey was calling them plays, he may have had a bet in too.
I'm getting fired anyway. What you gonna do? Suspend me? You know, I'm for a lifetime better. You know,
when they
20
hit
mil on this motherfucker.
They hit the 4th. When they hit the 4th and 21, they get the touchdown, and then he goes for 2 to go up 32-31. The camera pans right to the owner, and the owner looked like he wanted to just kill him.
I took off my headset and dropped it.
He probably called this. Is he white? Is the word white?
Oh yeah,
I was just making sure. He like this. He probably curl this motherfucker all types of monkeys. I'm gonna fire the fuck out of this motherfucker tonight. He didn't get the next day. Kurt, they fired him the same after the game, didn't they?
Yeah, right at the stadium, man. I can't believe.
Man.
You know, messed up our draft pick. You out. You go.
he out here. Yeah, he had to know.
Man. They fired the complete. Cause I noticed that one came through. I was like, okay, they fired Cliff Kingsbury the next day. Lovey Joe.
Lovey got fired before they left the field.
I think the clock was still running when they fired his mom.
I can't believe they won that game. And the thing was, at Soldier Field, they're celebrating like they won the Super Bowl. They watching that last. They're like, Lovey Smith coming through for Chicago. Our favorite Bears coach ever. Doing one more favor for the Bears. I was like, oh, hell no.
Oh,
I mean, he was
man.
They kept going for it on 4th and down. I'm like, this dude.
I'm telling you, I watched that in the Atlanta game, and I was just like, yo, he's going for it. He is going for it. I'm like, I don't know what purpose it is.
Lovey, I don't know why they cook me like this, bro. It's not me. It's them. All right?
That's what he's saying. It's not me.
No, the funniest shit was going for 2. And then to win 32-31. He was like, no, we're not going to overtime. We going for 2 for the win. Let's go.
Man,
that's wow. And then threw the bomb like that. And someone had a chance to even get it intercepted, and it's landed his hands. Boom. I'm like, yo, this is crazy.
That was hilarious. Now Chicago's going to trade that number 1 pick.
That's what I was telling people too.
They're going to get a haul. They're going to get like 5-6 make up for that mistake they did trading the number 32 pick for Chase Claypool. Giving the Steelers basically a second first-round pick for Chase Claypool. We very much appreciate that. And that's the number 1 pick.
Man. Jay, I got to ask you, man, real quick before we hop off of here. Sam Howell, dude? Like, you know, we live in this area. I mean, how they be, we're going to the Super Bowl next year. Sam Howell.
Nah. I don't think that. I haven't heard that from the Washington fans. But I'm about to say sometimes when you come across the right motherfucker, they just like them Cowboys fans, but not a lot. But I like Sam. I like Sam when they drafted. I spoke to a few Washington fans about it upcoming. I was like, I think that Sam has the arm strength for it. I know he came from Carolina, which I'm not high on Carolina quarterbacks, but he had an impressive 2018, 2019 season with them. So he had time to sit. And in that one game, he showed scramble ability. He showed he can bomb the fucking ball. And those are something that like Washington haven't had in a long time in the quarterback position. Someone with a strong arm and able to take some hits and run. So I mean, I don't know. It just depends on how down he gets the playbook and stuff like that. But I say you roll with him.
Yeah. Do you fire your man? I think you got to fire him. Or your fucking coach. What's wrong?
Ron Rivera need to get the fuck up out of there. 100%.
Did you see Sam Howell's interview? They were like, you had no reps. He was like, yeah, but I sat on the sideline watching all the games. I figured all I had to do was throw it to Terry, and we good. I'll need reps for that. And I just kept saying I couldn't wait to get my chance. Yeah. Looking for Jahan Dotson and Terry McLaurin.
Yeah, they look good.
They look good.
Y'all exposed the Cowboys. Like I said, I'm definitely trying to go to the game. I mean, Bucs fans, like I said, I'm trying to go. Ticket prices, rental car. And y'all know how y'all be acting at this fucking airport, man. I mean, that airport is crazy right now. I can only imagine. But we'll see if I make the trip, man. But just kind of goes to show you, I mean, these quarterbacks that are smaller in stature, like a Brock Purdy and like a Sam Howell and Heineke, obviously
you gotta be thick. Small,
I'm about to say.
Look at Jalen Hurts. Because look at Tua. Tua's issue is he's not built thick. Mm-hmm. That's the Bryce Young. Nervous.
Yeah, I was say Sam Howell not that small though, but he able to Z point though. He is thick. Like seeing him
take a hit.
Yeah, like seeing him after the interview, and also I gotta put that tidbit too when he came out there and told him we smoked them boys. I'm like, oh yeah, he came out there and said that. He said he smoked them. He said, and he honestly out of his mouth. He said, honestly, it could have been worse. I'm like, oh. He said, so we'll roll them next year. He said we're gonna smoke them next year. And just ended it. I'm like, oh my god!
So he already crapping himself. I mean, I think at this point you probably got to roll with him, man. He's a young quarterback. Washington, I don't know why they never just went with a young. They had success with young quarterbacks in RG3 and Curtis.
But they always
Heineke, they should have stayed with him. But in that game at least. I mean, I'm saying in that game that they lost against.
Agree. I agree. Absolutely.
And so Wentz is probably done. So I don't know where he's going.
Wentz is probably done. Get the fucking Wentz ass out of here. Get the fuck up out of here.
So who's the next offensive genius who thinks he can fix Wentz?
I know one thing, man. You better not stop. I was about to say, you better not come here. No, sir.
Y'all got Tom Brady, brother. Y'all next up on time. Y'all next up on Tom. You know Tom wants to go there. I mean, Tom, it was supposed to happen. It was supposed to happen. Him and Gronk or something like that or whatever it was talking about.
Yeah, they're supposed to happen 3 years ago. Per Dana White.
Yeah, man. And then, for the Bucs fans, man, I'm just praying and hoping if there's any Niners exec that listens to the podcast because of Matt being on, please let us get Jimmy G. Please. I just pray it's the perfect fit, man. We'll throw slides, just somebody, man.
We're candidates.
All you got to do is write a check. That was the deal what he made. To take the pay cut, they agreed not to franchise him or tag him. Mm-hmm. They agreed to let him go completely.
But that's what I read, though. Tampa Bay and Vegas would be looking at Jimmy.
Vegas, yes.
Yeah, so it's between us two.
Because, like I said, I know Tom's gone. Tom's not coming back on this bitch because of Donovan Smith, fat number 76 on that left side. Anyway, like I said, we'll close out of here. Fellas, did y'all national championship really quick? Who do we got tonight? Does TCU cover that spread and then ultimately
TCU
wins?
Max Dugan, baby.
Oh yeah, Max, man.
Yeah.
Max.
Points. The over.
Yep.
I ain't gonna lie to you. I put something on that TCU money line. I think Max gonna give it to him. I mean, my big bet is on TCU plus 14, but they're gonna fucking give it to these boys tonight, man. I can't wait to watch the game here.
I see points.
This should be close
because both defenses are gonna give it up. Points, and more points.
Yeah.
I'm about to say I'm looking for. Oh, it's already on. Oh yeah, and Georgia have already 7. Yeah, so
let me about to hop over here. And my other bet is I'm taking the Nuggets tonight, fellas. I'm telling you guys live, but taking the Nuggets, LeBron out, AD out.
Yeah, they killing them.
If they out, they blowing them out. But we'll see you guys next show. We'll see you tomorrow night. Brad Johnson, man, quarterback of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But yeah, like, comment, subscribe to the channel, share the show. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace.